ngā kaiako me ngā whānau o tēnei waka. Te waka ki ari te hoiana, te waka mai, te upoko me ngā hauewha, te waka kōrero, te waka wānanga mō tangata o Aotearoa. Ki te mana whenua o tēnei rohe, tēnā koutou, ngā mihi motu mana ki tanga kia mātou. Nei rā hoki te mihi ki te timuaki o tēnei kaupapa, Annalise Robertson, ma te whānau o ACE Aotearoa, tēnā koe mo te tautoko o tēnei kaupapa whakahiri. Kia ora koutou katoa, ko Peter Tuku ingoa, Ngāti Hamo te iwi. It's a privilege and an honour to stand here because last night when I was listening to the delivery or the acceptance speeches, there was a lot of kōrero about the people that stand behind us. And so I stand here because of amazing people like Pale, Foaese Serena, Annalise, and also our many friends across the motu, especially in Asia, South Pacific. ASPBAE is the Asia South Pacific Basic and Adult Education Association. So it's a collaboration of multiple groups across 31 nations, all civil society organizations that focus on adult education and community education. I've been on there for one term, and this is my second term. And I recently came back from the Philippines, where we had an executive council meeting after 2 years not being able to be face to face. The reality is things are challenging. We know this in COVID in New Zealand, but if we look at just our regional space, war in Myanmar, war in Afghanistan, we've had things like Aung San Suu Kyi is now back in prison. We've got challenges like in Vietnam, resources not being available for adult education, especially in the disability sector. We've got challenges within the South Pacific, where we recognize that when COVID occurred, a lot of the resources that were pulled internationally were pulled out of the South Pacific. Why? Because they look at our nations and they see small nations, but they don't see the mighty people. New Zealand and Australia have been doing a solid job in regards to maintaining the support as a community across our countries. And I thank you especially for that, because while there's all of these challenges, like people like Franco, the Franco family being re-established in the Philippines, and our whānau in the Philippines struggling with that. What we see is actually a boom within the community education space. Where governments have struggled, the communities have responded massively. And that's because of the kaimahi in the space. And so I just want to take the time to acknowledge that even though there's a shrinking civil society voice within different platforms, it hasn't actually silenced any of us. We've actually become louder, and we have actually started to advocate stronger in our spaces, and that's because we hold meaningful relationships with each other. I'm here also on behalf of Foaese Sandy Morrison, that many of us would know. She has had a lot of work done over many decades in the space. She used to be the president of ICAE, the International Council Adult Education, and she is right now being our representative at CONFINTEA to ensure that Aotearoa New Zealand has a voice there. I also stand here on behalf of Robbie. Many of you will know our friend Robbie, who's based in Melbourne but has been a voice for the regional space and is currently the president of ICAE. And of course our ASPBAE whānau, who I am a part of. I just want to pull up a few notes that Sandy has sent through. If you don't know, CONFINTEA was established back in 1949. After the war, we saw a massive need for increased support resources in adult education. And ever since then, CONFINTEA, which is the international meeting of civil societies and governments across the world to talk about adult education, how we support and resource adult education, have met every 12 years. And so this year is 12 years since the last meeting, and they are now talking about the big challenges like COVID. CONFINTEA VII is hosted by the Kingdom of Morocco this year. ACE Aotearoa is a member of both ASPBAE and ICAE. Many ICAE members and ASPBAE members are attending either as government reps or as civil society reps, and we are making strong contributions, especially to elevate adult education into the wider lifelong learning agendas. We will continue to do this. The representatives from New Zealand, Foaese Sandy Morrison, Karen Ford from the Ministry of Education, but they are joining through Zoom at this time. Thanks to Vicky Soanes from UNESCO, as well as our Minister for Education, Chris Hipkins, and ACE Aotearoa for ensuring this representation. It's important that we recognise the Minister in this because we have not always had representation from Aotearoa, but it was supported this year by the Ministry. I want to just slowly close off by saying those many challenges that are happening across our region, very diverse from Central Asia across to the South Pacific. One thing that has come across really strongly is that while we do need resources from the government, it has never been the core of what people movements are or what we actually do. It has always been our whare, it's always been our kainga, it has always been our villages. And so last night, listening to all those speeches, while there's these definitely challenging times, what an amazing group of champions we have in this space. And so I'm proud to represent this group. If you have any questions of me later on, please do ask. But you are well represented in different spaces. Hopefully I can say that humbly. But I'm not mentioning me, I'm saying Foaese and Robbie, etc. But thank you for your time.